Hello， 咁我哋喺左邊開始試一試個咪先，左邊嘉賓試一試咪先。
試咪。Testing 1 2 3。
試咪。
好 ，MC 試咪 testing 1 2 3 1 2 3。有冇記者朋友收得唔清楚？1
2 3 1 2 3。
使咪再試過？唔使就可以正式開始我哋今日記者會嘅啦。由頭試一次係咪？好啊，左邊開始先。
試咪。聽唔聽到？
當然要你可以攞近呢個咪，跟住
試咪。Testing 1 2 3。Microphone test 1 2 3 1 2 3。
試咪。
Testing 1 2 3 1 2 3。OK， 有冇問題？慢慢等埋你哋先。
Testing 1 2 3。係。
如果 OK， 我哋就而家可以開始嘅。而家就會首先播咗片先啦。可以開燈，可以開燈。好多謝各位記者今日出席我哋第15次民間記者會。今日主題係全球自由起義，全球抗共。我哋今日分咗大約7至8個環節。咁就首先會由中英發言啦，中英發言，跟住有我哋攬炒巴嘅speech。咁 咁之後就會由英文再做一個 recap， 再之後會有我哋自己嘅短片，跟住係嚟自海外嘅嘉賓，首先係澳洲嘅嘉賓發言，之後再有片，然後係台灣嘅嘉賓發言，之後我哋會宣讀出3位嚟自台灣流亡、台灣手足嘅家書，然後再做一個總結，最後就係 Q&A 問答環節。我哋都好多謝基進報道提供手語傳譯員。咁喺開始發言之前，有冇幾多朋友需唔需要再影多次相先？好，唔需要，咁我哋可以正式進入中文發言環節。
試咪。自由起義，全球抗共。自主權交接以嚟，中央企圖以主權凌駕人權，唔單止一直衝擊香港嘅司法獨立性，更加想將中國式民主強加喺香港人身上，務求全面摧毀香港人權、法治、自由嘅基石。呢一場運動就係源於我哋對中共政權持續嘅不信任，因為唔相信中共嘅司法制度，所以我哋要求撤回送中條例。因為香港警黑勢力成為中共維穩機器嘅一部分而覺得憤怒，所以我哋要求設立獨立調查，甚至解散重組警隊。因為擔心中共不斷滲透香港嘅政治體制，所以我哋要求真普選。成個運動嘅本質上就係對抗極權，追求普世嘅民主價值。今日我哋召開自由起義全球抗共記者會，目的就係想召集全世界追求民主自由嘅每一位，支持並且加入我哋嘅戰線，對抗一個企圖掌控全世界嘅赤色敵人。香港今日已經企喺對抗共產極權最前線，但慶幸喺呢一條路上，我哋並唔孤單，因為喺世界每一個角落，中國共產黨都係民主自由其中一個最大嘅敵人。由一帶一路經濟殖民，威逼利誘各國同台灣斷絕邦交，肆意剽竊知識產權，去到設立新疆維吾爾族集中營等事件之中，自由世界嘅人民同埋各國政府都已經切身咁樣意識到中共對民主自由嘅威脅。講到國際戰線，大家可能都會聽過攬炒巴嘅名，以我要攬炒為網名，連月嚟多次號召並且發起國際反送中文宣以及抗爭行動。我哋而家將會宣讀佢嘅行動總結同埋預告。各位香港人、傳媒朋友，大家好，我係連登，我要攬炒。今日有幸以特別嘅方式出席民間記者會，目的係希望協助發布928、929全球反極權行動嘅資料，亦都感謝民間記者會代為讀出呢一封信。過去3個月非常漫長，我哋香港人由當日接近不可能嘅反送中，逐漸朝住光復香港、時代革命嘅目標邁進。只有爭取真嘅雙普選，還政於民，重組警隊，香港先有可能撥亂反正。以8月16號英美港民主權在民遮打集會為契機，攬炒團隊同全球海外港人開始加強聯繫，並且喺8月中同埋尾分別協調咗2次全球示威活動，聲援香港。但係攬炒團隊同各地抗爭者一致認為，我哋香港人有能力做得更多，並且要開始對準問題根源，亦即係中共極權統治香港。因此，我哋早喺8月就開始圍繞928同埋10月1號呢2個日子，籌備更大型嘅全球行動同國會遊說工作。經過1個月嘅籌備，僅此正式宣布，超過19個國家、42個城市將會喺928、929嘅週末呼應全球連線共抗極權嘅行動。同時間9月份適逢另一批連登嘅巴士呼籲929全球遊行。有見及此，我哋決定將2股動員力量合流，誠邀更多海外港人喺928同929期間加入抗爭，全球開花。 截至今日，響應928、929反極權行動嘅國家已經有美國、加拿大、英國、愛爾蘭、法國、德國、瑞典、荷蘭、丹麥、比利時、意大利、烏克蘭、波蘭、愛沙尼亞、馬來西亞、台灣、日本、澳洲、紐西蘭等19個國家，名單仲會不斷加長。部分地區更加得到流亡海外嘅維吾爾族、西藏人答應到場支持，合力反抗極權。大家或者會疑惑，點解最近928、929主題同埋文宣逐漸統一為全球反極權，而唔係赤納粹嘅搶眼標題呢？其實擬定大主題嘅時候，攬炒團隊同埋世界各地抗爭者接觸過唔同嘅西方政客、記者同埋普羅大眾，反覆探討提出反赤納粹 （anti-Chinazi） 呢一個字眼喺西方社會係咪恰當？縱使我個人同意共產黨其實同納粹黨並無分別，甚至更差。不幸地，收集翻嚟嘅英美法德意見呢，一致認為赤納粹呢個字眼極唔恰當，因為觸犯咗文化禁忌同埋傷疤，反而造成西方對香港抗爭者反感嘅巨大風險。而赤納粹旗更加一度令部分人誤會香港人係支持納粹，因此聆聽咗外國聲音之後，我哋嘗試以自由對抗極權嚟號召928、929全球行動。話雖如此，我哋始終唔係，亦都唔想成為大台。假如有手足堅持使用赤納粹呢一個字眼，我哋雖然會唔認同，但亦都會尊重不割席。只求大家三思而後行，事關國際遊說工作同埋輿論可以一指錯，滿盤皆落索。最後，我哋冇需要妄自菲薄、迷失氣餒。100年前，孫中山前無互聯網、冇飛機，亦都成功組織全球網絡，連結本土同埋國際力量，對抗暴政。100年後，我哋擁有好多倍嘅資源、科技同埋工具，所以只要窗口繼續一致對外，我哋實在比孫中山等嘅先烈有更大嘅潛力本錢，以小勝大。抱歉，呢一份唔係一份正規嘅新聞稿，因為每次公開發言，我都係以遺書嘅心態去寫，只有眼前路，沒有身後身。香港人928、929全球見，光復香港，時代革命，凌化飛灰，不作浮塵。
咁而家有請英文發言。Now we will recap in English.
The opposition to extradition to China is fundamentally an opposition to Chinese communism. Anti-extradition sentiments stem from fundamental distrust in how Chinese communists operate the legal system. Our theory stems from the knowledge that our police force had turned into a sellout to communist China. Our calls for universal suffrage stem from our determination to resist the obtuse meddling of communist China in our politics and our way of life. Today, the Citizens' Press Conference will cover the theme, The Free World Unites, a global war on totalitarian terror, with an aim to call for people from all over the world who believe in democracy and freedom to stand in solidarity with Hong Kong and join our fight for these universal values. Luckily, Hong Kongers are not alone in this fight against Communist China. In every corner of the world, Communist China has developed a pungent reputation as the arch-nemesis to freedom and democracy. From the economic imperialism under the guise of the Belt and Road Initiative, to how they corner other countries, to sever diplomatic ties with Taiwan, to horrific human rights abuses in Xinjiang, concentration camps, every citizen and government in the free world has started to find themselves up close and personal with the threat that Communist China poses to the entire world. In terms of Hong Kong's battle on the world stage, many will have heard of Mr. Scorcher d'Earth. We will now read out a summary and preview of his plans. Dear Hong Kongers and friends from the media, good afternoon. I am a member of the Fight for Freedom, Stand with Hong Kong team, otherwise known as the Scorcher d'Earth campaign. I'm honored to speak at today's Citizens Press Conference about the upcoming global rallies against tyranny, set to take place on September 28th and 29th. I'm grateful to the Citizen Press Conference for reading out this letter in my stead. Hong Kongers have endured 3 long and arduous months. We began our movement fighting against the unacceptable Extradition Law Amendment Bill. Since then, we have progressed towards the goal of liberation of Hong Kong through a true revolution of our times. Only through achieving genuine dual universal suffrage, returning power to the people, and completely reforming the Hong Kong police force, will order be restored to Hong Kong. Since the August 16th Power to the People rally at Chater Garden, the Fight for Freedom Stand with Hong Kong team has strengthened our ties with Hong Kongers living internationally. In August, we organized 2 large-scale global rallies to raise awareness of Hong Kong's situation and to call on the world to stand with Hong Kong. Still, the Stand with Hong Kong team and global organizers believe that we Hong Kongers have the capacity to do even more. We must strike at the heart of the problem, the Chinese Communist Party's totalitarian grip over Hong Kong. Since August, we have been planning to hold a series of global rallies around the key dates of September 28th and October the 1st, alongside our ongoing international lobbying efforts. After almost a month of preparation, we can now officially announce that over 19 countries and 45 cities will participate in global rallies against tyranny on September 28th and 29th. At the same time, a group of ally HKG online forum users are calling for global rallies on the 29th. In light of this, we have joined forces to invite more overseas Hong Kongers to join us on September 28th and 29th, so that our resistance efforts can bear fruit all across the world. To date, 19 countries have joined the global rallies against tyranny, including the USA, Canada, the UK, Ireland, France, Germany, Sweden, the Netherlands, Denmark, Belgium, Italy, Ukraine, Poland, Estonia, Malaysia, Taiwan, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, and the list continues to grow. Some rallies have also invited diasporic Uyghur and Tibetan communities to stand in collective solidarity against the totalitarian Chinese state. You may ask this, why has the theme for September 28th to 29th coalesced around the theme of anti-totalitarianism, and not the more attention-grabbing China-Nazi? Before deciding on the current theme, the Stand with Hong Kong team and various overseas organizers consulted with various groups, including Western politicians, journalists, and general members of the public. Together, we came to the conclusion that it is not appropriate to use the term anti-China-Nazi as a theme. Although I personally agree with the sentiment that the Communist Party is no different to Nazi, if not worse than them, the prevailing view from various Western audiences is that the term China-Nazi is highly inappropriate. Due to the cultural taboos and traumatic historical legacy associated with Nazism, there is a risk that invoking such a term may trigger an immediate negative reaction towards the Hong Kong protesters, including fostering the misunderstanding that Hong Kongers support Nazism. As such, we have decided to use freedom versus tyranny as the theme for the September 28th and 29th global rallies. That being said, we have never been and will never aspire to be a spokesperson for the movement. We are merely trying our best to convey what we have heard from our overseas friends and supporters. If our rallies remain determined to use China-Nazi as a theme, we shall respect their voice and respect their choices, even if we do not agree. We will not allow ourselves to be divided. We only ask that our allies consider the implications of their choice before going ahead, as a misstep in narrative and international lobbying at this critical juncture may cost our movement heavily in the long run. Finally, I implore everyone not to feel or disappointed, not to underestimate yourselves and your power to make a difference. A century ago, before the internet and the existence of commercial air travel, Dr. Sun Yat-sen successfully organized a global network of support to topple a tyrannical dictatorship. A century later, we have many more resources, as well as more advanced forms of technology and tools. If we keep our goals united, we have a far greater chance of succeeding than Dr. Sun ever did. We are David to China's Goliath, and we will win. My sincere apologies that this is not a conventional press release. Every time I make a public statement, I feel as though I am writing my will, but I will keep my eyes on the horizon and not look back. I hope you will all do the same. Hong Kongers, no matter where you are in the world, we will see you on September 28th and 29th. 光復香港，時代革命，凌化灰飛，不作浮塵。Fight for freedom, stand with Hong Kong. Fight for freedom, stand with Hong Kong.
多謝兩位發言人。今日我哋同時會代一班手足介紹佢哋自發為香港設計出嘅最新抗爭象徵代表 Phoenix 自由鳥。Phoenix 結合咗代表自由嘅 Free 同不死鳥嘅 Phoenix 兩字，代表住喺爭取自由路上無畏無懼嘅所有香港人，即使面對風雨，亦將繼續向我哋所渴望嘅普世價值展翅高飛。Thank you for the speeches. Today we are introducing the newest symbol of Hong Kong struggle, the phoenix, which designed by a group of protesters. The phoenix combines the idea of freedom with the phoenix, the mythical bird of immortality. Embodying the spirit of the phoenix are the people of Hong Kong, fearless. We advance along the road to freedom, against all odds. We strive towards the universe, values for which we thirst. 而喺今個星期日嘅全球抗極權行動中，世界各地港人亦都會響應由香港發起嘅和鳥飛自由全民接旨行動，以 Phoenix 自由鳥凝聚全球人類嘅力量，共同對抗極權暴政。Therefore, this Sunday's global protest will see Hong Kongers across the globe joining Hong Kong in its fold Phoenix origami rally. With the phoenix as our symbol, we will gather global support to protest against tyranny and oppression. 咁接住落嚟就係我哋嘅來賓分享。我哋有片播咗先 ，sorry， 我哋而家係播咗一條片先。
We face the difficulties of today and tomorrow. I still have a dream. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day.
We understand it still that there is no easy road to freedom. We know it well that none of us acting alone can achieve success. We must therefore act together as a united people for the birth of a new world.
O republice samostatné, svobodné, demokratické, zkrátka o republice lidské, která slouží člověku a proto má naději, že i člověk poslouží jí. Tvá vláda, lidé, se k tobě navrátila.
국민과 세상을 위해 경이롭게 살고 헌신한 사람은 비참하게 겨울을 맞이하더라도 역사 속에서 반드시 성자가 되어 다시 부활한다는 것을 그는 수없는 역사적 사실 속에서 보았습니다.
I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears, and sweat. Victory. Victory at all costs. Victory in spite of all terror. For without victory there is no survival.
我哋香港人真係唔可以再輸，我哋要贏就一齊繼續贏落去。
咁接住落嚟就係嚟自澳洲嘅嘉賓會作分享。And now we will have the guest from Australia to have his speeches。
各位好，我哋澳港聯最初係成立喺2015年嘅，當時係由4個喺澳洲唔同嘅城市推動支持香港雨傘革命嘅搞手組成，並一直同世界各地同樣支持香港爭取民主嘅團體有聯繫。過去3個月，如果計晒集會啊、連同場講座等等呢，我哋全國呢係舉辦咗超過50次活動。今年嘅反送中議題上，我哋最初呢係由網上聯署做起，咁之後喺6月9號呢係響應全世界各地嘅聲援香港集會。大家都好關心我哋嘅老家香港，但係又身處喺海外，冇辦法親身支持，咁咪只好呢喺外地集會去聲援香港，同埋爭取喺國際外交上面俾壓力中共。從反送中行動開始嘅香港示威行動呢，已經第16個禮拜啦。全世界都見到極權政府對香港市民呢嘅聲音抗爭越嚟越麻木，香港已經喺暴政嘅操控之下完全淪陷。此時此刻已經到達全球行動升級嘅時機，國際戰線必須再前進一步，更強硬地與高壓對待市民嘅極權去暴政去對峙。如果要作為自由戰線嘅一方，首當其衝嘅香港唔能夠戰勝極權，世界各地嘅民主、自由同埋公義亦都將一步一步被極權去侵佔侵略。自由抗極權呢一戰，我哋所有人都必須要喺雞間一方，抵制極權嘅責任。全球人類無一幸免。澳洲作為一個以民主自由為核心價值嘅西方國家，必須有責任繼續同香港同行，捍衛普世價值，並對破壞自由公義極權作出制裁。因此，同為澳洲分子嘅居澳港人 必定會同香港一齊並肩作戰，直至抗爭運動嘅最後一刻。我哋好多成員都喺澳洲住嘅，咁亦都好了解澳洲同香港民主制度極度唔同。喺澳洲，不論係州議會定國會，都係真普選產生。雖然總理咧係由國會議員選出，咁但係由於國會議員都係真普選出嚟啦，咁所以總理都係真民主嘅。同香港相比，政府好重視民意，特別係勞工權益，所以澳洲咧有全球最高嘅最低工資，亦都規管工時38小時。咁由於人民咧就比較得閒，而且咧就強制要投票，咁人民都會比較關心政治嘅。但係好多咧移咗民嘅大陸人咧就唔肯入籍，因為咧攞永久居民啦，即係 PR 啦，同埋公民咧，其實咧係有同樣嘅福利嘅，不過就冇投票權。咁所以咧好多大陸人咧就因為唔想放棄中國籍啊，所以就冇做澳洲公民，亦都冇感受過投票。可笑嘅係佢哋自願放棄投票嘅權利，但香港人就為咗真正嘅民主而上街抗爭。我哋每一位成員都希望可以盡一分綿力，推動香港民主進程。作為重視同埋愛護民主公義嘅自由國家，澳洲其實都相當支持香港對抗極權嘅一條戰線。除咗一般大眾關注事件之外咧，各別嘅黨派咧同埋議員咧都多次發出聲明去支持香港人。我哋組織亦都有同唔同嘅黨派議員見咗面，俾佢直接從香港人嘅角度了解示威者嘅目的同埋訴求。喺香港嘅民主路上，各位唔係孤軍作戰嘅。特別喺7月份喺昆士蘭大學舉辦連儂牆活動嘅學生，俾幾百名內地學生包圍恐嚇嘅衝突事件裏之後，澳洲嘅學生同埋本地人呢都對香港嘅議題更加關注。事件同時亦都引起咗唔少教育團體針對本地言論自由、集會同埋表達意見嘅自由警覺。事後引發本地人爭取捍衛校園言論同學術自由嘅集會示威。回顧過去澳洲嘅示威活動，7、8月開始參與嘅本地人明顯比6月多，而且好多本地人已經唔止係支持者身份去聲援香港人，而視自己係呢場抗爭嘅一份子。甚至越來越多澳洲人自發主辦支持香港民主運動嘅一戰嘅示威活動，亦都開始見到反對中共權力滲透澳洲嘅示威活動。所以香港人呢一日有各地海外嘅支持，絕對唔係孤軍作戰。香港人加油！ Now I will recap in English. The Australia-Hong Kong link was founded in 2015 by the co-organizer of the 2014 Umbrella Movement coming together from 4 different cities in Australia. We have maintained close contact with both local and international pro-Hong Kong, pro-democracy groups worldwide, and have organized over 50 public events over the past 3 months up and down this country. Our work on the certain anti-extradition movement began with us standing an online petition and then taking part in the global rally called on 9th of June. Every thought goes to our homeland, Hong Kong. But with us being overseas, the less we can do is to hold rallies to stand in solidarity with Hong Kong and to get together international support from our governments to set pressure on the CCP. 16 weeks have passed since the start of the movement. The world is aware that the Chinese terrorist regime has grown numb to the outcry of Hong Kongers and their persistent fight on the street, and that Hong Kong has fallen under the control of the dictatorships. The time has now come for a step up in global action. The international battlefront must take a step forward and be even firmer in its fight against terrorism and tyranny. Being the bridgehead of the free world against terrorism, Hong Kong cannot lose ground. If this front line be breached, the free will and its value will be eaten away piece by piece by the terrorism against that we are and should all be guarded against. In this fight between the free will and dictatorship, we must all stand with the act against the war. This is a duty of all citizens of the world. Of the world will come the terrorists is allowed to spend. As a country centered on the value of freedom and democracy, Australia has a responsibility to work with Hong Kong and defend of our shared value and sensations, those who are complicit in destroying those values. Therefore, all Hong Kongers certainly reside here will stand with Hong Kong in this fight definitely and see it through till the very end. Many of our members have lived in Australia for an extended period of time and understand the policy system in Australia and Hong Kong are very different. Here, both the state and foundation parliaments are democratically elected, and through the Prime Minister is only elected by its party, but as the people elected their MPs directly, it makes up the process and keeps it largest democratic in stand. Unlike the case with Hong Kong, the Australian government paid a lot of attention to civil rights. This is why Australia has the highest minimum wage in the world, and that the working time for full-time employment in Australia is set at 38 hours per week. People generally have much more free time in Australia, and with both beginning compulsory, Australia are much more in tune with the policies. Meanwhile, there are many mainland Chinese immigrants in Australia who have yet to take up citizenship for fear of losing their Chinese citizenship. By doing this, they effectively reveal the right to vote. It cannot really experience what the democracy all means and how it is exercised. Not they seem to care. As a nation that upholds the value of justice and democracy, Australia is in full support of the people of Hong Kong in their fight against terrorism. Aside from the overarching public concern for Hong Kong, MPs from different parties have also published statements to comment and support the case. Our organizers have likewise been in touch with a number of MPs to expose the ideas of the protesters and the present situation to them from Hong Kong's perspective. The locals have grown more interested in the happiness in Hong Kong, especially since July, where one of the Lennon Wall campaign at University of Queensland has harassed by a few hundred mainland students. The same incident also draw the attention of numerous education organizations to the freedom of expression, the demonstration and the speech locally. Many rallies have been called under those themes since. Look back at the Hong Kong protests in Australia. The number of locals involved in August and July were clearly higher than those recorded in June. What many locals increasingly see themselves as a part of the movement, more than just a mere supporter of the case. More and more Australian locals have even begun to lead pro-democratic demonstration in the name of Hong Kong. We have also started to see protests being organized against CCP infiltration into Australia. All in all, this battle that Hong Kongers are fighting have garnered support from all over the world. You are by no means fighting alone. 香港人加油 ！OK。
咁接下來我哋仲有一條片係嚟自巴丟草喺外國角度講嘅分享。And now we will play our video from Ba Liu Chao, which is a famous artist and cartoonist. He will share the topic on Western angle.
Well, I think Hong Kong is a very special city to me personally. Before my cancelled Hong Kong exhibition, that I received a lot of help from locals in Hong Kong. After it got cancelled, I'm constantly having a lot of messages from Hong Kongers to saying they want to support me on this cause. So for me, it's really personal. It's quite. I feel my personal life or my personal, let's say, tragedy of life is also reflecting in the destiny of Hong Kong. When my show was forced cancelled, when me and my family is threatened by the Chinese government, and this is very much happening in Hong Kong right now. This is the reason why Hong Kongers are rejecting the extraditional bill and longing for its autonomy, freedom and democracy, because they do not want to experience what I have experienced as a mainland Chinese. So I feel strongly with Hong Kongers, and I think as an artist that I have a responsibility to address the very important issue around the world, especially in Hong Kong and China, because I am a Chinese, and I have so many associations with Hong Kong for these years. It is just very essential and personal for me to make a stand with Hong Kongers. I think it's really also free world's duty to stand with Hong Kong, because Hong Kong's value is also the value that enjoyed and celebrated in the free world. It's about freedom, it's about democracy, it's about respecting human rights. If we see Hong Kong as a part of us, then we shall not just stand silently, we shall not just do nothing. It's very important for us to join in and supporting Hong Kong. Well, now I don't think the mode of China or the regime of China is satisfying with its power within its territory. It is expanding its influence, damage and its threat all around the world. It almost like it trying to set Hong Kong as an example to the world that this is how China mode is working. And the only way you can work along with it is listen to China, obey China. Otherwise it will be punished. The free world should join in the fight of Hong Kong by saying no to this aggression from the Chinese regime, to say no to the CCP. It's very much of this opportunity that we should stand with Hong Kong in saving Hong Kong and defending Hong Kong, so that we can defending our very rights. This right is not just to any individual country. This right is universal rights. This right is human rights. So I believe every country from the free world have this responsibility to join in this fight with all the Hong Kongers. On the 29th of September, there will be a global rally around the world supporting Hong Kong's fight. And the new scene now is we're going to making origami bird folding as a challenge around the world to encourage people to folding this symbol, birds flying freely in the sky, as a way to supporting Hong Kongers. And during this campaign, that we will encouraging people to fold origami birds from different or design of the papers. If you are in your own country, you can use a paper which is featuring your national flags to make into paper birds, or you can use the new Hong Kong Land War flag as the pattern paper to make it into birds. And in this way, we hope to getting more people to join in and be aware of the Hong Kong situation and stand with Hong Kong together. Thank you.
麻煩開一開燈可以。咁接住落嚟就係嚟自台灣嘉賓嘅分享。We will have the guest from Taiwan. 現在我們有請來自台灣的嘉賓。
在场各位好，那我是来自台湾的，我姓王。那在这边我向各位报告一下，就是台湾我们会参与9月29日在台北的反极权挺香港的大游行。那在台湾我们这边的反极权直接的意思就是争取自主以及自觉的权利，反对中国政府对台湾以及香港的各种压迫。过去这么多年来，中国政府和他们的代理人持续的对台湾进行各种打压和迫害。台湾人在国际上是没有地位的，我们不能拿国旗，我们不能进联合国。那我们的女星拿了国旗就必须要公开的录影道歉。SARS 的时候，国际社会没有办法给台湾任何的援助。台湾的公民李明哲在网络上的发言就被中国判刑关押，上百的台湾人在中国强迫失踪，被任意的逮捕。台湾人在第三国也会因为中国政府向该国要求要引渡，直接被送终审判。这些压迫是非常直接的。台湾人必须决定自己的命运。同样的，我们也希望香港人、澳门人甚至中国人都可以决定自己的命运，来摆脱身不由己的集权的压迫。那有人或许会问，以前台湾有没有过反对集权的游行或集会？其实是有的。那各位可能听过228事件。1945年，国民党从日本人手中接收台湾，为了内战大量的征收物资，台湾经济崩溃，政治贪污腐败，台湾人受不了起来游行反抗，勇武些的就会去打烧抢军线。后来国民党调动军队来台湾镇压，死了非常多的人。随着内战的失败，国民党来到台湾，为了加强社会控制，发动了白色恐怖。不论省级，不论你是共产党还是反共自由派，只要对政权有一点点的不满，就统统抓起来。甚至我们大家知道李敖这种现在看起来是亲中国的人物，当然都因为批评时政曾经被关起来过。在这几十年的抗争中，接下来我们就会值得一提的是1979年的美丽岛事件。事件爆发前11月，民主人士组织的美丽岛杂志社天天被警察找麻烦，员工被警察无故打成重伤。因此，支持群众在12月10日这一天，在高雄发起游行。国民党动员了大批的军人、警察等在游行的路线上，双方就起了冲突。事后，国民党发动大逮捕，抓了几十个主谋、从犯。前线的群众被打、被捕的人更多，难以计数。当时国民党的处置方式其实跟现在香港政府的套路是差不多的，各种虐待。香港有了当年国民党一样不缺，灌辣椒水、虐打囚犯，不让囚犯睡眠，样样都来。审理期间，其中一位主谋林义雄先生，他的母亲及2个女儿被入室劫匪用非常专业的暗杀手法杀死，剩下1个女儿被杀成重伤。这起血案，即使到几十年后的今天，整整40年了，还是没有办法破案。漫长的戒严、白色恐怖已经对台湾人造成非常强烈的 PTSD 创伤后压力症候群。我的家人有许多人是警察，尤其是我退休多年的父亲，他在年轻的时候曾经支援过几次所谓的抗议勤务。他这次非常强烈的反对我来香港，他认为我会被失踪，甚至送命。香港现在发生的事情，让我的父亲想到台湾多年前发生过的事情，那些他自己旁观过的行动，像是游行者被拖到角落打成重伤，或者被捕之后好多天才通知你的家属。这就是这几十年创伤累积而成的压迫，对所有人都一视同仁。不管你是支持政府还是反对政府，没有人敢随便讲话，不会因为你是警察或是政府的雇员就比较安全。也就是在这种情况下，我们这一代台湾人才会觉得说，应该要更大声的说话，争取言论自由跟政治上的自主。没有言论自由，没有自主自觉，就永远不可能摆脱集权 压迫和影响。前面我们提到228美丽岛，再到各位可能更熟悉的太阳花，对我来说，整个台湾争取民主运动的核心理念，就是要朝向争取自主的目标迈进。更进一步来说，没有真民主，没有真自由。因此，在这边，我想告诉各位香港的朋友，各位在抗争的意志上，比起台湾人更加的团结，更愿意为自己的家园做事，这点让我们非常钦佩。未来这场抗争一定会继续下去。各位除了在街头奋斗之外，也不要忘了香港的狮子山精神，文化上保持香港的自我认同，经济上让香港繁荣的发展，社会上让香港人相互照顾，每个人都有战场，每个人都有自己可以参与抗争的方法。从6月以来，我在台湾遇到一些香港朋友，他们也都有各自努力的目标，即使人在台湾，仍在努力的尽到他们的力量，一己之力。未来台湾社会也会持续在就学资格以及其他生活的援助上给香港人必要的支持。最后，关于929当天的游行，作为主办单位的一员，我们希望台湾的香港人都能踊跃来台北参加，大家一起努力对集权说不。也希望各位香港市民持续关注这个议题，愿未来香港终究成为香港人的香港。谢谢。那接下来我会用英文再重新复诵一次。I'll repeat it in English. We, the Taiwanese people, read the term anti-tyranny as a fight for democracy and autonomy against the threat and oppression by the Chinese government and the CCP. Over the past 40 years, the Chinese government, as well as their representatives, have continuously oppressed the people of Taiwan. We have little to no place or status on the international stage. We cannot fly our national flag. We cannot enter into the United Nations. And one of our female celebrities even had to publicly apologize for merely just holding our national flag. The international community was prevented from sending aid to us during the SARS. Taiwan citizen Li Mingzhe was incarcerated in China due to cyber speech. There have been hundreds of cases of arbitrary arrested and unlawful detention, and even disappearance of Taiwanese citizens in mainland China. The Chinese government would also ask for Taiwanese suspects overseas to be extradited back to mainland for trials. These are blatant, direct political operations from China's end. Taiwan must be able to decide for her own fate and be free from the grips of China. We, of course, wish the same from Hong Kong, Macau, or even Chinese as a nation. Have there been any protests against dictatorship in Taiwan before? Actually, there have. People might have heard about the February 28 incident, which happened after World War II, when Japan surrendered its control of Taiwan to the Chinese Nationalist Party, Kuomintang, in 1945, triggered by governmental corruption and an economic breakdown, as resources would be continuously extracted from the people and channeled to Shanghai for the civil war against the Communist Party. The people of Taiwan started protesting. Some protesters, which was much more radical, start burning or robbing weapons from arsenals. Soon after, the KMT government sent an army from mainland and started to crackdown concluded with a tragic massacre. After its defeat in the Chinese Civil War, the Nationalist Party Kuomintang retreated into Taiwan, and the era of white terror begins. It matters not whether you are locals or immigrants from mainland China, nor did it matter whether you are a communist or an anti-communist liberal. Any bit of discontent displayed to the regime could get you arrested. Even Li Ao, whose political stance leans towards the pro-China side of the spectrum at the moment, was also arrested back then for his political commentary. Another noteworthy event with these decades of resistance is the Kaohsiung incident in 1979. In the November leading up to the incident, the Formosa magazine were being picked on by the police every day. Employees were attacked by the police without reason, and many were seriously injured. A large crowd thus amassed in Kaohsiung on December 10th, and marched in indignation. The Nationalist Party deployed large amounts of police and military to wait en route, from which a clash between the two sides ensued. The aftermath was a mass arrest that included leaders and dozens of their associates, and countless much more frontliners, normal people, were detained and beaten up. The approaches employed by the Nationalist Party, Kuomintang, against protesters back then were very much akin to the adopted by the Hong Kong government today, and the torture tactics never grew old. Be it waterboarding with chili juice, beating up prisoners, or sleep deprivation. During the trial, the mother and two of the three daughters of Lin Yixiong, one of the leaders of the protest, were causally murdered by professional assassins. The only daughter survived was also badly wounded. This case remains uncracked, even today, as the assassination was done so cleanly after 40 years. The Taiwanese people were left to suffer from a PTSD after the prolonged period of martial law and white terror. Many of my family actually worked in the police force at the time, including my long-retired father, who was called to duty multiple times at protest events. The trauma from his work still affects him today. He was particularly distraught over my decision to visit Hong Kong in fear of me being disappeared or even killed. The recent happening in Hong Kong remind my father of what happened in Taiwan back in the days, and the operation that he witnesses with his own eyes. For example, the assault on protesters at dark corners of the street, and the family members of the arrested would only be notified days after the arrest. Those wounds only run deeper as time progressed and manifest as a repression of thought. In their minds, it matters not whether you are pro or anti-government. Being an official or civil servant doesn't make you safer from oppression. No one should ever think to take the risk to just speak up. This is the reason that in my generation, we the Taiwanese people acknowledge this historical background is to be ever more resolute in making our voices heard and in safeguarding our freedom of speech and political autonomy. For there can never be true liberation from the chains of dictatorship without these things. From the aforementioned about February 28th incident and the Kaohsiung incident to the more widely known Sunflower movement, in my eyes, the entire Taiwan have been moving towards one goal and one goal only, which is actualized true autonomy. There cannot be freedom without autonomy. This is the core idea behind our pro-democracy movement. Therefore, I would tell my Hong Kong friends that you have all our respect and admiration. You have displayed a collective resolve that surpasses in your path of resistance and a stronger dedication to your homeland than the world has ever seen elsewhere. The fight will only continue while you are down on the street. Please don't forget that you are the defenders of Hong Kong's unique international positions, your prosperity and your Lion Rock spirit. Take care of each other and work together. This is a fight in which you may all contribute in your own days, and with which there is a position for everyone to take. Since June, every Hong Kongers I've come across in Taiwan have the goal that they are working towards, even though they are abroad and missing home madly. In the coming days, I assure that you will continue to have the full moral and material support from Taiwan's society. You only need to ask. In the end, as one of the organizers of the September 29 March and rally, I would like to urge both Taiwanese citizens and Hong Kongers in Taiwan to come along and stand in solidarity with Hong Kong and speak out against the dictatorship. May Hong Kong be unto to its own people. Thank you.
咁跟住落嚟就係我哋會讀出3封流亡咗去台灣嘅手足寄翻香港嘅家書。And now we will present 3 letters from the Hong Kongers who exiled to Taiwan. We choose part of it to present. About the full version, we will post it on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Later on, we will have the first letter now.
而家將會讀出第一封嘅家書。喺呢一封家書嘅第一段，我認為有必要先對你哋道歉。我離開咗屋企人、朋友、戰友以及香港，嚟到台灣冇辦法繼續同大家一齊對抗呢一個不義嘅政權，我感到羞愧同無地自容。自懂事以嚟，爸爸咧都對我嚴厲嘅教導。你教導我喺遇上不公義嘅事情，唔好盲目低頭服從，要學識爭取。而家香港嘅情況咪就係咁樣咯。面對不公不義，我哋唔能夠低頭裝作不見。親愛嘅屋企人，我喺台灣一切平安，請你哋唔使擔心。我應承會好好咁樣照顧自己，唔會辜負爸爸嘅教導同埋你哋嘅期望。仲記得喺金鐘抗爭嘅呢一段日子，喺我身邊嘅人群，佢哋嘅眼神係一樣咁堅定，佢哋嘅一呼一吸都係有血有肉。每晚發夢圍繞喺我耳邊嘅，都係沙啞嘅口號、傷者嘅求救聲、救護車嘅鳴笛聲，同埋代表住暴政嘅槍火聲。而家呢一刻呢，就連催淚彈嘅氣味，我都好似聞得到咁樣。呢一切一切，我呢一世都冇辦法忘記。喺呢段日子，喺港府嘅無能同埋警察嘅暴力之中，抗爭者嘅人性光輝尤其顯得耀眼。但喺極權嘅暴政底下，呢一啲嘅光輝同埋意志，隨時都可能被摧毀。抗爭路上沒有歸途，亦不見前路。或者我哋應該俾自己解開呢一啲類似嘅枷鎖，放手一搏去爭取我哋所應得嘅。我哋要對時代抱有信心，因為哪裏有不公義，哪裏就有抗爭。早排我去睇台灣嘅連儂牆，見到眼前嘅台灣人排住隊咁樣貼上寫滿支持嘅便利貼，向已逝去嘅烈士鞠躬，我忍唔住咧淚流滿面。但無奈嘅係，因為要保密嚟自香港嘅身份，我冇辦法放聲大哭，只能偷泣。呢個週末喺台灣有929嘅台港大遊行，聲援血淚之中嘅香港。我希望香港人知道，有好多嘅台灣人認同香港抗爭嘅理念，世界各地都有人全力咁樣支持香港人。呢一場係自由同極權嘅戰爭，香港人絕對唔係孤軍作戰。香港係我哋嘅屋企，我係離家嘅遊子。感謝每一位仲喺屋企抗爭嘅香港人。出門在外嘅我，亦都唔會放棄自己，會繼續堅持努力。香港人需要嘅係對香港現時嘅社會結構嚟一個深層次嘅全面改革。亦即係而家香港嘅唯一出路。我永遠記得自己係煲底嘅承諾，希望終有一日坦容相見。願我等所期望嘅美麗城邦，能有天構築於我等眼前。
咁跟住落嚟就係第二封嘅香港家書 ，and we will have the second letters from Taiwan to Hong Kong。6月9失敗，6月10凌晨陪我喺金鐘過通宵嘅婆婆同老師。6月11、6月12一齊喺前線捱唔住瞌著嘅兄弟，你哋幾好嘛？6月16一齊嘆氣嘈交，漏夜狂起水馬陣，一齊搭紅 van 走嘅兄弟。6月21一齊噴漆掉雞蛋。6月27朝早律政中心出邊落雨擔遮俾我嘅兄弟，你哋幾好嘛？7月1一齊推鐵籠車，一齊接力爆玻璃，一齊唔怕死拎住紙皮盾衝入去，兄弟你哋幾好嘛
好對唔住，我陪唔到你哋繼續作戰。好對唔住，我已經聯絡唔返你哋。好對唔住，我而家淨係可以同香港人講對唔住。假如而家問我後唔後悔，我一定會答後悔。我後悔6月16冇幫梁凌傑義士報一血之仇。我後悔6月21有份被救回車入境處，香班唔死都冇用嘅狗低頭。我後悔7月1只係喺牆上面寫血債血償。我唔知道而家香港嘅手足進步到去咩程度，但我唔希望嘅係以後要掛住無數個失聯嘅人，要講後悔同講對唔住。喺你哋入邊嘅任何一個人，相信我，感覺絕對唔會好受。我並唔識太多出咗國嘅旅客，亦都唔知佢哋會唔會有以上嘅感想。我哋知道我只係一個平凡而普通嘅香港人，同埋我真係好愛香港。And we will have the third letter home from Taiwan。而家會有第3封嘅家書。
好，咁我代為讀出第3封俾香港嘅家書。各位香港嘅兄弟姊妹，多謝你哋繼續堅持。好對唔住，我冇辦法同你哋繼續一齊打落去。如果再俾我揀一次，我唔會想做逃兵，我好想同大家一齊為已經過世死去嘅手足一説仇恨，一齊贏，一齊喺煲底相擁，一齊唱國歌。身處喺異鄉，我感覺好似一個外人，好陌生，好掛住香港。我唔想各位兄弟姊妹好似我咁樣流離失所，但係好多謝你哋嘅幫手。放心，我會好好照顧好自己，我唔會成為大家嘅負累。對唔住，要你哋努力埋我嗰份。希望大家記住每一位喺新屋嶺、喺太子站同埋2次被自殺嘅意思。正如天琪引用蝙蝠俠對白裏面所講，黎明之前嘅黑暗係至黑暗嘅，真係好黑暗。但係黎明即將會來臨。我同你哋都好驚，但係更加驚被受辱嘅手足一直含冤。求下大家企出嚟，同前線嘅手足一齊，為我哋所有手足伸冤。黎明來到，要光復這香港，同行兒女，為正義時代革命，光復香港，時代革命。
咁而家就會作出記者會嘅一個總結，之後就會落去Q&A 環節。And we will have the sum up now, and then we will have the Q&A section after later on。
聽完3封家書，聽到國際戰線手足嘅發言之後呢，相信大家都明白到，對世界各地嘅朋友同埋各國政府而言，香港係對抗極權嘅橋頭堡。香港人嘅抗爭，實際上就係全人類維護民主自由嘅抗爭。如果香港淪陷，如果中共政權喺香港得償所願咁樣實行佢嘅中國模式，中共政權勢必會更加積極用佢嘅影響力，繼續肆意侵蝕世界各國嘅民主制度，將侵犯人權、封鎖信息、非法搜捕呢一啲嘅畸形價值輸出世界，令極權主義成為下一個世紀嘅統治主流。所以香港人必須繼續抗爭。928有雨傘革命5週年集會，929有全球反極權遊行，10月1號有民陣發起嘅沒有國慶只有國殤大遊行。而我哋要突破運動膠着嘅樽頸位，就要喺街頭對峙抗爭之外，繼續發揮創意，百花齊放，持續爭取國際關注。例如有網民收集意見，製作咗美國制裁願望清單，以及頭先提及到嘅自由鳥摺紙行動等等。昨日新疆西藏，今日香港台灣，明日自由世界。我哋呼籲世界各地嘅人繼續同我哋同行，反抗中共極權，維護民主自由普世價值。
after hearing from all our friends who have been involved in the Hong Kong's fight on an international level, we hope that it is now very crystal clear that Hong Kong is a bridgehead of the free world against the onslaught of totalitarianism. The fight of Hong Kong is really just a microcosm that represents the fight of all humankind in defending freedom and democracy. If Hong Kong is besieged by communist China, this will spell the siege of the whole world. Siege that will land the whole world back into the Dark Ages. A world that is run with Chinese characteristics. Is this a world we can bear to see? We all know that this is a war that Hong Kong cannot afford to lose. 29th September will see thousands marching on the street. We will see the unity of people all around the world against tyranny. Whilst on the 1st of October, the Civil Human Rights Front will also organize another march, which we all hope that every Hong Konger that do feel for freedom and democracy and universal values will stand up and show the Communist Party that we are against tyranny. To avoid being stuck at an impasse, we need creativity and innovation to ensure a breakthrough. For example, netizens have created a wish list of the first people to be sanctioned by the United States Freedom and Democracy Act. Hong Kong and Taiwan are turning into Xinjiang before our eyes. If we're not careful, the whole world would too will turn into Xinjiang soon. The war against Communist China is not just our business, it is everybody's business. And so we implore you all, wherever you are in the world, to join us in this fight against communists and against totalitarian China. Thank you.
好啦，咁我哋而家就進入問答環節。咁每位記者喺問之前就提供翻你哋嘅機構。We will have the Q&A session now. If you have proposed some question, please say your affiliation first. 係有冇記者需要提問？
Hello, I'm with the Voice of America. I have a question. Over the last 24 hours, I actually talked to 2 Americans and 3 Australians who are traveling to Hong Kong. They come here more than 10 years doing business here, and they consider themselves sympathizers of the protest movement, but they're very, very concerned about the safety of the protesters on the front line. So they offered some suggestions, including maybe enter some kind of political process, because in their eyes, and they have seen a lot, every protest is a political movement. And because it's a political movement, they suggest that protesters should do that. So I don't know if you agree with that assessment. And then are you organized enough, and do you have the desire to enter some kind of political process to save the bloodshed on the front line and meanwhile achieve at least some of your goals? What would that be the next one for you to enter that process? Maybe the independent investigative commission for the police conduct. Would that be the next one that would get you there? Because as you guys said, there is a bottleneck right now for you to break through in order to get the movement to the next step. So I'm just trying to get some idea whether you guys agree with the international friends' opinion and suggestions and your response. Thank you.
Right. Thank you for the question. First of all, once again, I want to thank every ally around the world for supporting the Hong Kong movement, including expats in Hong Kong. You might be coming from another country, but being in Hong Kong here with us Hong Kong people hand in hand, we express our most sincere gratitude to all of you. For your concerns about the danger of being frontliners fighting against the entire state every weekend, it definitely isn't something that we want to do, and we want to continue to do in the coming weeks. However, you must understand that we've been left with no choice whatsoever. We're always willing to urge the government to use political measures and political means to solve this crisis instead of using brute force, mere force, to suppress political voices. We are the ones urging for a political solution for this movement and for this havoc of Hong Kong. It is Carrie Lam's responsibility to lead Hong Kong and rebuild our city, rebuild our law and order through political measures. And that is what we've been willing to do. Since the very beginning of July, we've already been urging the government that we want an independent committee of inquiry to investigate the entire movement, the root cause of it, and whether the police have been exercising police brutality against those who are under arrest and also general protesters. We are just trying everything that we can, every means that we can to solve this problem. However, we do not find a way out. This is our final resort for us to take the street. If we've got constitutional way to do it within the limitation of our law, we would have done it already 3 months ago. It is the government's responsibility for failing to provide an institutional channel for us to express our views. So I urge herefore strongly for the government that you are obliged to hear the people's voice through political means. Nobody wants to take the street, and it is up to our city's leader to decide what means do you want to resolve this crisis.
Do you guys have a condition, before maybe condition or concession, another one by the government so you can enter that process? Or you're going to, I just want to get your opinion, in terms of...
Right. So, representing all protesters here of the movement, we would say that the common factor that we all agree with is the 5 demands. It has never been more clear. The 5 demands is the basic that the government has to respond to. If the government failed to respond and address what we Hong Kong people are very strongly urging and demanding for the past 3 months, the government is failing us, and we must not concede to such tyranny. The government has the responsibility to respond to people's will. So we've seen the government trying to address the issue by setting up community talks and conferences. But then, on the other hand, Carrie Lam is also saying that the 5 demands will never be promised by the government. What sort of baseline is that for you if you want to resolve the crisis, but then you've never ever been ever stronger when you come to talking about the people's demand? The 5 demands would be essential for the government to respond to. And that's it of our response. Because that's basically it.
To conclude that, 5 demand, not one less. We don't need any extra force community talk or any other concessions or like political process initiated by the government. They could just directly respond to our 5 demands. That's more than enough.
請問有冇記得有係後邊灰色衫嗰位？
Hello， 丁家寶嘅，可唔可以問台灣嗰位嘉賓嘢啊？可以問你問題嗎？就只有一個問題，就9月29號那天 在台北有一个是挺香港的一个集会。那我知道现在台湾非常多的亲中共团体，你会不会担心就是当天集会的时候会出现一些就是有亲中共的团体到场，然后可能会攻击或者是做其他行为？因为在台湾就我们常看到在台北，特别在101附近就很多这种行为。
我个人相信一定会有这样的状况发生，但我同时也相信游行的参与者还有台湾人有足够的智慧去解决中间的冲突。毕竟我们是民主的体制，大家都有言论的自由，对，所以我相信台湾人有足够的智慧去阻止或预防这类的冲突发生。
係，做咩有冇記者？後面白衫。
你好啊 ，Nara， 想問下咧，即係關於929，即係大家都講緊全球反極權嗰個大遊行啦，其實就冇申請到。
唔好意思，可以對咪少少。
係，其實就冇申請到不反對通知書，咁大家係咪都係諗住即係採取翻即係過往大家週末就係周圍行嘅呢一個策略咧？同埋另外想問咧，即係頭先你哋都有答過話，即係你哋都唔願意話其實每個禮拜咁樣出嚟抗爭係因為政府佢冇回應啊。咁但係而家林鄭就提出其實星期日已經有個聽日已經係有個對話平台啦咁樣，咁其實係咪即係呢個政治解決手段係咪你哋唔滿意呢？
首先澄清翻929嘅嗰個遊行，而家仍然係申請緊不反對通知書嘅。但其實觀乎咧，對上幾次嘅遊行集會都好咧，就算我哋有不反對通知書都好咧，我哋個遊行時間官方時間未結束啦。結束嘅時候咧，警方都會做出一啲無理嘅搜捕啦。咁所以我哋可見嘅就係咧，就算有冇不反對通知書都好咧，其實警方都會做一啲嘅無理嘅舉動咧，去打壓呢啲咁樣嘅遊行嘅行動。而呢一點咧，我哋係表示非常之關注啦。咁所以無論有冇不反對通知書都好咧。都可以肯定嘅係咧，都會有唔同嘅民眾咧願意咧去走上呢個街頭，繼續去表達佢自己嘅意見嘅。咁但係呢一個嘅行動咧，往後會點樣發展咧，就有待咧我哋去繼續去即係睇翻主辦團體嘅相關嘅行動。係啦，所以我哋係仲申請緊嘅。而第二點咧，針對對話平台咧，其實我哋都多次嘅民間記者會已經講得好清楚啦，5大訴求缺一不可。所以唔明白咧，咁簡單8隻字咧，點解仲要用一個嘅咁大陣仗嘅對話會，跟住2萬幾人抽完之後得個150人先可以出席，先聽得明呢8隻字。咁所以一係咧就係其實呢個對話會咧，只係一個假嘅平台，淨係俾咧呢個政府咧做一個公關 show。或者咧就係政府其實係真係咁簡單到呢8隻字都聽得唔明，所以要再做咁多額外嘅成本、額外嘅警力咧，去維持一個假嘅對話平台。所以我哋係對於政府所做嘅所有嘅所謂嘅平台係非常之失望啦。而我哋希望嘅就係政府直接回應5大訴求，唔需要再搞咁多額外虛假嘅對話會啦。
係後邊。
你好啊，立場新聞記者。想問翻呢，因為近年日都有好多建制派提出蒙面法呢個概念啦。咁今日律政司司長鄭若驊亦都講到話，即係政府正在研究蒙面法咁樣啦。想問下你哋有冇評估過，即係一旦真係呢條法例係真係實施嘅話，對於抗爭會有咩影響呢？咁甚至係你哋，因為你哋每次民間記者會出嚟嘅時候都係蒙住面出嚟嘅，即係會唔會呢條法例即係真係唔單止影響抗爭，甚至你哋記者會都會影響到交唔成？你哋有啲咩應對嘅方法啊？唔該。
我唔介意啊，俾我回答呢個問題。首先一直以嚟蒙面一開頭啦係為咗保護自己，時至今日其實已經成為咗一個象徵意義啦。其實蒙面喺我哋成個運動中係一個象徵意義，同黃頭盔一樣。咁如果佢要實行呢個蒙面法，我相信除咗我哋之外，佢哋陣營即係比較親中或者藍嘅陣營，亦都會有反對聲音。因為喺佢哋清洗連儂牆，佢哋打人嘅時候，部分人亦都會蒙面，佢哋都會蒙住面攻擊我哋。 無差別咁攻擊我哋。咁蒙面法對於佢哋嘅影響其實都可能會有，亦都會更加大。
再補充少少啦，咁其實睇翻個歷史嘅脈絡咧，即係烏克蘭嘅革命運動點解會再升級多一個層次咧？正正就係呢個極權政府就係想設立呢個蒙面法，去打壓一班嘅群眾對於自由嘅訴求。咁所以如果政府同埋唔同嘅建制派嘅人士咧，想再令到我哋嘅群眾更加激進，更加做唔同形式嘅抗爭嘅話，即管去設立呢個蒙面法啦。我哋都唔肯定之後呢啲群眾會再做啲乜嘢，但係既然而家已經有咁多嘅義士唔懼怕呢個港共政權嘅打壓嘅話，點解區區一個蒙面法我哋就會唔上街抗爭呢？所以你要令到啲人唔上街抗爭嘅話，你唔係設立一個蒙面法繼續打壓我哋，係直接回應5大訴求，缺一不可。多謝。
有冇記者需要提問？
蘋果日報嘅，其實都係想問翻台灣嗰位先生，就是想問一下，就是其實剛剛也就是讀了3封，就是在台灣的香港人的一些家書。其實想問一下，其實現在台灣政府對於香港人去台灣尋求這個政治庇護的那個態度是怎麼樣？
個人並不代表台灣政府，所以我沒有辦法很明確的說，好，台灣政府的態度是怎麼樣。但目前就是目前看起來，在整個制度上來說的話，只要是香港的朋友要來台灣就學，然後要在台灣待一段時間，目前台灣應該是都可以的。目前是有這樣的就是會有一些，甚至會有一些民間的團體會主動的去援助這些香港來的朋友，所以目前在台灣的這些狀況，當然大家可能會聽到有些蠻多的就是消息或是一些故事，但是就我所知，目前在台灣政府是沒有公開的，就是說OK 好，那你來了，因為台灣沒有難民法，我沒有辦法說給香港人，就是你 refugee 的身份也沒有辦法給你做一個 shelter， 但是目前他們也並沒有反對，那也不會把香港人就是輕易的來送回到香港來。對，那目前的狀況就是希望說，那香港的朋友們到台灣之後，那開始就是如果就是找學校或者是其他的方式來留在台灣。那目前我知道的部分大多數是這個樣子的。
對，係各位。
香港獨立媒體想問下，以前就話爭取5大訴求啦，但係今次929嘅行動係打正旗號反中共、反極權啦，咁會唔會令到929更加少人出嚟呢？你大概會預計有幾多人參與？
先回應第一個，點解我哋今次點解有組織會用一個對抗極權作為一個口號，或者作為一個主題去舉辦呢個遊行呢？其實可以見到嘅就係呢5大嘅訴求，其實5個呢都係源自於政府落錯咗一個決定，佢冇聽到民意嘅訴求，本質上都係用一個極權嘅方式去打壓群眾，去令我哋噤聲，所以我哋先會希望我哋可以對準槍頭，用一個對抗極權嘅方式去表達我哋嘅訴求咯。咁至於會唔會預計有幾多人呢？我哋係冇辦法可以講一個確實嘅數字上嚟嘅，但係當然係越多越好啦。所以民間記者會今日就係要舉辦一個記者會，就係去希望更多人去行上呢個街頭，繼續表達佢哋嘅訴求，唔好因為連日嚟唔同嘅越嚟越多嘅打壓，就令到咧我哋咧就唔再行出嚟。而總括而言咧，任何嘅極權嘅政府咧，係全球各地都不能夠接受啊。所以唔單止係香港啦。我哋都會見到已經有多過20個嘅國家同埋唔同嘅城市已經行緊出嚟，所以要估計嘅人數咧真係好難估計，因為除咗香港之外，仲有成個世界嘅人都支持緊香港人，所以香港人咧唔該929真係要行出嚟。
係中間白衫記者。
有咪有咪有咪。
係01嘅，就想問翻呢，咁其實928、929同埋11都有行動咁樣啦，咁會唔會擔心即係咁密集就會即係可能分散咗個力量，即係後勁不繼咁樣啦？咁同埋就想問翻，即係擔唔擔心11嘅來臨啦？其實即係中共或者中央咁樣咧，就會即係加緊一啲更加強硬嘅政策去對付即係示威嘅行動咁樣嘅。
驚唔驚？因為密集冇人行出嚟，當然唔驚啦。即係香港人嘅抗爭嘅決心，我哋其實3個月以嚟都已經見到啦。3個月以嚟都冇少個人行出街頭，反而係越嚟越多唔同形式嘅嘅活動嘅時候，我哋係唔會驚，因為太過密集，所以冇人行出嚟啦。而我哋見到咧，可能政府、警方甚至乎中央有收緊到政策啦，正就係證明我哋而家抗爭者做啱咗嘢咯，所以佢哋咪擔心，所以咪再將佢哋嘅政策去收緊。咁但係我哋唔會因為就係佢哋收緊咗，所以我哋就唔再行出街頭，因為佢5大訴求缺一不可，到而家都未正式回應抗爭者嘅訴求，我哋唔會因為咁樣就此罷休。
仲有我都好想再同一啲猶豫緊，到底9月29號、30號同10月1號出唔出嚟嘅香港市民講，請大家唔好忘記，我哋由6月一路行到而家行過嘅每一步。我哋唔好忘記，我哋6月9號，我哋6月16號，我哋8月18號，點解喺咁大雨之下，仲有超過100萬人願意行出嚟？就係因為我哋嘅信念，冇人、冇一樣嘢、冇一句説話、冇一個建制派議員、冇一個政府可以打壓到我哋呢一份對抗極權、爭取民主嘅決心。所以懇請大家可以記住呢一個我哋當初行出嚟，乜嘢驅使我哋走過呢3個月嘅唯一呢一個嘅信念。我哋千祈唔可以放棄，直到我哋爭取到全面嘅自由民主為止。所以喺度勸勉香港人，嚟緊嘅3日係要證明俾全世界知道，我哋香港人到底爭取民主嘅決心係有幾咁堅定，有幾咁堅強。我哋係唔會向極權政府低頭。
請問有冇記者有提問
Any more question from the floor？
咁如果冇記者想提問，咁我哋今日第15次民間記者會就喺度完結啦。多謝各位參與。And we will end up our 15th Citizen Press Conference now. And thank you for attending.
And the video clips and everything will be uploaded to our YouTube channel very soon.
多謝大家，多謝大家。